first song. We have two new songs today, and funny enough, they're the last two songs, so suspense. Yep. Just tell us where to go. We will follow you. Just show us the way. You know just what to do. Just show us your light, so we know where you are. All this pain, I wonder if I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all. All this earth, could all that is lost ever be found? Could a good come up from this ground at all? You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. All around, hope is springing up from this all round. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of make me new. You are making I can hear some voices out there. I'm like, yeah, turn up. Don't be afraid. Here we go. Against all hope, I will believe. The raging boy
Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Yeah. That feels pretty good. Man, didn't they sound awesome today? Yeah. All right, play it again. I'm just kidding. My name is Jarrett, if you don't know me. How's it going? I have a couple of really cool announcements. Number one, this is really awesome. Are you ready? We're turning one. March 7th is going to be our birthday. We technically started last year on March 1st. So March 7th, we're going to be like a year and, 6 days? I can't do math. We're really excited. Hopefully, everybody comes out. It's going to be a cool day. We're going to have pictures where you can get like a family portrait. Did anybody grow up in church where you had like a directory? I thought it would be funny if we made our own directory. So we're going to like do pictures and stuff. We can use it for that. Also, we'll use it in like social media. And of course, you can have it as like a gift to you. So come in your Sunday best that day. Also, we're going to be doing some cool giveaways. The band's going to be here, right? And Hannah will be here too. Also that day, we're going to go to a new place for brunch. Can you believe it? I know, we've been going to Three Daughters for forever. Just around the corner over here, there's a brand new place. It's called Grand Central Brewery. Yeah, it's right across the street from the Mar, if you guys know the Mar. We're going to brew up some spirits, exactly. They open at 12, so we got to hang out here for just a little bit when the service is over, and then we'll go over and have like cupcakes and food and stuff. So there's that. Number two, we've been talking about groups for a while. If you could, take out your phone, go to diff.church. Stephanie, are you in here? Okay, I'm going to make fun of you. Is that okay? Okay, last week, Stephanie was like, hey, when I go to this website, it doesn't look the same. Can you go? Yeah, there you go. It doesn't look like that. And I was like, oh, that's because our website is diffchurch.com, but like our hub portal or whatever is diff.church. So make sure you go to diff.church so it'll look like that. If you're new, you can click the thing on top, tell us about yourself. But as I was saying, groups. We're super pumped to start groups the week of March 15th. Go back to the slide for me, Ryan. Yeah, Monday is the virtual group at 7:30, led by Josh and Jamie Chan. You may not have met them because they haven't been here in a while, because they're one of those people who are still like staying really safe, and that's cool. So the virtual group is for you. The Wednesday group is in St. Pete. It's going to be at Bree and Adam's house. Are you guys in here? She's back there. And then the Tampa group is going to be at Isaac's house. I don't think Isaac's here today. On Friday at 7:30. Also, last but not least, you can see there on the bottom, brunch today. If you want to go to brunch, we're going to Three Daughters just around the corner. Cool? Okay, Hannah, come on up. Woo!
I was a little behind. I was still sitting down listening to your great announcements. I'd be like, oh, that was my name. Oops. Hey, y'all. Too many things. Let's see how long that lasts before I kick it over. That's why it has a lid. I have a special announcement. Next Sunday is the last Sunday in February, and we are going to have a special guest named Michaela, who, if you were here during like November, December, when Guyana was traveling the world and living her best life, she came and sang for us, so she is wonderful. But she also works for a local anti-sex trafficking organization in St. Petersburg. So she is going to come and speak to us about what that is, what it's like, all kinds of questions she is going to answer. It's going to be kind of a Q&A. If you were here a while back, you may know we did that with mental health recently. We had kind of like a Q&A panel discussion on mental health. So we love doing things like that. But she would like me to announce to you, if you have any questions, maybe you know nothing about sex trafficking, maybe you have some questions you want answered, please send them to us so that she can address them next week. Cool? Sweet. I'm really excited.
Hey, how should they send them to us?
At diff.church. Go to diff.church and hit the button to send us a contact. Is the way I will say send us an email, get it to us via the interweb. You can email it to hello@diff.church.com. Okay, secondly, for Black History Month, we are celebrating Black people and everything amazing that they do. So, as I introduced last week and the week before, we have one person we're celebrating because I think you should know who this person is. So this is our person for this week. His name is Garrett Morgan. He is famous for several reasons. One is he invented the 3-signal traffic light. Before that, there was only 2 signals, so no running yellow lights for you. He also invented like the predecessor to the gas mask. But why I think you should know who he is because he invented a sewing machine attachment that makes a zigzag stitch. Who cares? You care if you wear anything made out of stretchy fabric. Okay, so a sewing machine used to only make straight seams. That's great if you're making towels. They don't have any stretch. If you wear like a cute knit top or basketball shorts or yoga pants of any kind, you can thank Garrett Morgan. Because without him, that would have all had to be done by hand. So no yoga pants for you, okay? So the next time you are wearing yoga pants or anything made out of stretchy fabric or dry fit or anything, thank a black person, Garrett Morgan. He made that possible. And now, with almost no wonderful transition at all, we are going to talk about fear. And if I planned this better, I would have like a cool soundtrack of Halloween Horror Nights playing in the background now, but I didn't plan. And I'm not going to blow your eardrums out by doing it myself. So we're going to go New Testament. Now what I have are a list of some common things that people are afraid of. So please participate, okay? Are you afraid of any of these? The first one is heights. Got a couple people? Yes. How about this one? That is much more. Spiders. How about this one? Small enclosed spaces. Claustrophobia. Yes. Public speaking. That's most of you. Well, you don't want to come up here? It's not that scary. Mostly I can like barely see you because of the lights. How about this one? Do you know how hard it was to find a picture of just like a normal, happy clown? I was like, clowns, happy clowns. Like, there's nothing but pictures of it online. And I am not trying to give you nightmares at church. Okay, finally, we have this one. The dentist. Yeah. Now, I'm not personally afraid of any of those, but I'm afraid of falling. Like, I could be way up high, it doesn't bother me, but I could be 2 inches off the ground. If I feel like I'm falling, freak out. I literally will lose my mind. Okay, so we're talking about fear. Those are some common things people are afraid of. So our scripture today comes from Matthew chapter 8, and we're going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it. This is what it says. Then Jesus got into a boat and started across the lake with his disciples. And suddenly a fierce storm struck the lake with waves breaking into the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. And the disciples went and woke him up, shouting, "Lord, save us, we are going to drown." And Jesus responded, "Why are you afraid? You have so little faith." And then he got up and rebuked the wind and the waves, and there was a great calm, and the disciples were amazed. Why? They woke him up. "Who is this man?" they asked. "Even the winds and waves obey him." This is one of my favorite Bible stories. I think it's hilarious. Jesus gets in the boat, the disciples gets in the boat, they're sailing along, a storm comes. Jesus is very tired. That's my baby. Sound effects brought to you by a tiny baby Nova. So he's very tired. He's dealing with the crowds and the people and the disciples. I'm very tired to deal with tiny baby Nova all night long. And a storm suddenly appears, not just any storm, like a crazy Florida lightning storm that like spawned tornadoes a few nights ago. That kind of storm. Jesus is still sleeping. Anybody can sleep through anything in here? Hate you. Hate you so much. I am what I would call a high maintenance sleeper. So the room has to be cold and dark, and I have to be in my own bed with my own pillow. Like literally, if I'm traveling, I will sacrifice room in my suitcase so I can take my own pillow everywhere I go. If I'm traveling, I have an app on my phone that makes fan noise because God forbid I have to listen to myself breathe. And above all else, no annoying sounds. Yes, you can imagine sleeping next to a 10-week-old. There's not much sleeping going on because she makes noise all night long. She like grunts and sighs and rolls around and flails her body and just like all night long. Just, she just grunts. It could mean she's hungry. It could mean she has to poop. It could mean she's just unhappy with life. It could mean she's perfectly happy. You don't know. So I just get to lay there with this like 1 foot from my head all night long. And I'm just like, not Jesus. Jesus is sleeping through the whole thing. He's not a high maintenance sleeper. Now, crazy storm. We know for a fact Peter and Andrew and James and John were all fishermen, like professional fishermen. Potentially a few more of the disciples were, but like these were professional fishermen. This is not their first time in a boat, okay? James and John, they had a nickname. They were called the Sons of Thunder. Sons of Thunder. Okay, where do you get that nickname from if you have not thunder, right? Like, it's not their first time in a boat. It's not their first time in a storm. It is their first time in a storm with Jesus in the boat, but this time, their minds. They're terrified. That's weird to me. They're having a crisis. Do you ever feel like God is sleeping through your crisis? So it's almost like Jesus being there becomes this crutch for them. Yeah, Jesus is in the boat. They automatically assume it should be smooth sailing. And they lose their mind. So they wake Jesus up. Can you imagine the nerve to wake God up? Jesus is sleeping. They don't wake him up gently like, hey, Jesus. Hi, buddy. We're having like a hard time here. Maybe if you could like help us, it would be great. No, they wake him up by shouting at him, save us, we're going to drown. They wake up God, who is in such a deep sleep that he does not hear the lightning or the thunder or the rain or the disciples losing their minds. He doesn't hear any of that. They wake him up by screaming in his face. Okay, I think that takes some, you know what I mean. So it seems like they did not understand the full implications of what getting in the boat meant, because they actually had to leave the shore. So the storm comes, and they're upset because Jesus seems uninterested in their safety and was sleeping. And I think Jesus is asking them, like, what did you sign up for here? Like the boat, would you just think we were just going to hang out by the shore? So here's an example. This is a real-life illustration of me when I was a teenager, like maybe 11, 12. So I went to MGM Studios, which is now called Hollywood Studios. This is the best Disney park in my opinion, except for Epcot for adult reasons. But when you're a kid, MGM I think is the best because they have the Rock and Roller Coaster and the Tower of Terror. The Tower of Terror is my favorite ride of all time, but when I was like 11 or 12, I'd never been on it before. So my brother and I go on this ride, and it was before they had like individual seatbelts for each person. So there was like a lap bar that came down for all 4 people in the row. And there's me, I was like this big. And then there was a pretty large dude next to me, like 6 feet tall, like pretty big guy. So the lap bar was not on my lap. It was like this far off my lap. So I was like, cool. It's called the Tower of Terror. I've been to the Haunted Mansion. This should be no big deal. I am your host, your ghost host. No, that is not the Tower of Terror. Literally, my brother, like, it dropped. I screamed my head off, and I almost came out of the seat because the lap bar was so far off my lap. Like, I remember my brother grabbing my shoulder and being like, "Foo!" like shoving me down into the seat. And then the next time we went, like a couple years later, I was like, oh, there's now individual seatbelts. So maybe somebody like flew out of the ride. Come on, Disney. So it was as advertised. Like, what did I think I was signing up for? A mild fright? Be like, oh, you gave me a fright. No, the Tower of Terror. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I'm terrified in the Tower of Terror. This is exactly what happens to the disciples. They're like, oh, get in a boat in storms. And they're like, oh my God, a storm is happening. This is not what I signed up for. The sign on the boat said, go into the water and there will be a storm. But I was like, surely that's a lie. It'll just be some waves and I'll be like rocked like a lullaby. No. Jesus, like what do we think he came here for? Okay? Jesus came to save humanity. He came to earth, gave up heaven, and was beaten and tortured and crucified and died and was buried and rose again and ascended to heaven and is sitting at the right hand of God, and then we'll be coming back again to begin a new age where all the heavens and the earth are refreshed and renewed and put back to their beautiful, wonderful space that they should be in. And we think that Jesus wants us to just get in the boat and never leave the shore? What do you think you signed up for? For the podcast people, I just made a crazy face. So, let's think about this. Let's talk about anxiety for a second, because this is something I deal with. So I know what it feels like, okay? I know what it feels like to feel super overwhelmed by even the most tiny, small, mundane task. And just be like, I can't do it. I know what it's like to lie awake all night just obsessing and worrying about something, and then in the morning you're like, I literally cannot get out of bed today. I know what it's like to feel like constant general panic about everything and nothing. And people will be like, what's wrong? You'll be like, everything. And they're like, everything can't be wrong. So, well, yes, but maybe it's not, but it feels wrong. The thing about anxiety and the thing about fear is generally, we are not drowning in what we fear. We are drowning in our fear. The disciples were not actually drowning. Did you catch this? The boat had not sank. The waves, they weren't in the water. The boat had not capsized. Jesus was still sleeping. They didn't say, Jesus, wake up, we're actually drowning. They said, wake up, we're going to drown. And I can imagine Jesus just being like, guys, come on. Because literally, just prior to this, in Matthew chapter 6, he taught about fear, and this is what he said. And the disciples were there, and they all heard this. This is Jesus talking. Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. Aren't you more valuable to him than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? Why worry about your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work. They don't make their clothing. And yet Solomon in all his glory was not dressed as beautifully as they are. And if God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers that are here today and they're burned up in a fire tomorrow, he will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith? In fact, that's exactly what Jesus asks the disciples. He wakes up, and the first thing out of his mouth is, why do you have so little faith? And then he rebukes the wind and the waves, and there's great calm. And then the disciples are amazed. That strikes me as hilarious. They wake Jesus up, begging him to save them, and then he does, in fact, save them, and they're like, I cannot believe that's what happened. What did you wake him up for? Just let him sleep. Leave God alone if you're going to be shocked when he actually does what you ask him for. It's interesting, though, that Jesus talks to the wind and the waves. Why? Because creation has to obey him. People have a choice. And the disciples already made their choice. They already gave in to the fear. They were already way down the anxiety spiral. Like, the scenario could have totally ended up differently. The disciples could have looked at those waves and been like, those are pretty big. They could have stood under the rain and been like, it's really coming down today. They could have looked at the wind and said, man, it's howling. But look, Jesus is sleeping, so it must not be that bad. If Jesus can sleep through the storm, then maybe the storm isn't going to kill us. We'll worry when Jesus wakes up. If Jesus wakes up and is like, oh no, this storm is very intense, that's when you panic, right? Jesus looks at his disciples and he says, why do you have so little faith? Don't you see that I'm here? Don't you remember what I've called you to? Don't you remember what you signed up for when you got into the boat? Because Jesus was on his way to do something amazing. He was going to, on the other side, if you keep reading in Matthew, on the other side of the Lake of Galilee, he was going to cast out demons, to heal the sick. He's going to preach hope to the masses. He had all these great plans. And the disciples were a part of it. But they couldn't even make it across the lake. Through something they already knew how to do before they even met Jesus. It's not as though it was a whole new scenario of them. The sons of thunder were on the boat. They already knew how to get through a storm. And Jesus shows up and they're like, can't handle this. Jesus is not here to calm every storm that comes up in your life. Sorry. Jesus is here to save the world. Okay? Jesus came to revolutionize the way that we see each other and how we relate to God. Jesus is here to beat back hopelessness and despair and greed and fear and death and give us the opportunity to live as fully actualized humans who are accepted and loved for who we are. Jesus invites us into this mission, right? To change the world. And we are like, I'm sorry, this boat's going through a storm? Hey, Jesus. No. There is no wave that is so high that you cannot rise above it if Jesus is in the boat. There is no storm that is going to drown you when Jesus is in the boat. Don't make Jesus speak to the storm because you won't listen. And I said you, but I'm preaching to the choir. I'm like, God, get me out of this. I don't like it. And God's like, well, I guess I'll get you out of it, but you're really supposed to go through it. Ask God to speak to you. Ask God to give you strength. And I'll just close with the words of God to Joshua in the Old Testament. Moses had just died, and it's going to be up to Joshua to bring this whole group of Israelites, the whole people, into the promised land. They're still in the desert. They're going to go to the promised land. And Joshua's like, I don't know, this seems like a lot. And God like, okay, let me talk to you directly. This is what God says. Just as I was with Moses, I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause these people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do according to the law. Be careful. I cannot read. Be careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left. You may have good success wherever you go. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Don't be frightened. Do not be dismayed. The Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Notice, God does not tell Joshua there's nothing to be afraid of. Joshua's literally going to start a war. Of course there's going to be difficult times ahead. God says, be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. If you're in the boat with Jesus, then you're in the right boat. If you're in the storm with Jesus, you're in the right storm. Just hold on. Be strong. Be very courageous. The Lord your God is with you. I'm going to give you a blessing, and then we're going to have 2 more songs, and then Gianna's going to share another part of our celebration of Black History Month, which is an excerpt from a video and a poem, and she will send you on your way. But first, let me give you a blessing. So, a traditional benediction is like a blessing for you to go out in the week. Evangelical people generally just pray. We're just like, dear God, etc. We close our eyes and bow our heads. So we're going to do something different. If you're evangelical, this may be weird to you. To receive a benediction, generally people go like this. Why? Because if you're holding your hands like this, God can't give you anything. So, just go like this. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God show his favor to you and grant you peace. Amen.
All right, friends, do you wouldn't mind standing with us once more, please? These are the 2 songs that are new. This song is called Graves and Gardens, and how God can turn graves into gardens, among other things that are dying or seemingly hopeless or lost. across the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along, put me back together. Every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Hey, oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Now I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. Yeah. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the So, this is the last song, and it's very special. There's a lot of interacting, so at some point, don't be afraid to chime in. I'm going to be also vulnerable about this song really quick. So Peter chose this song, but it's weird. Like, we get these songs at the beginning of the week, and I forget that, oh, this song could totally speak to me at some point in the week with something that's relevant to my life. I'm just like, oh, totally a God thing that this song is in here. Yeah, I got some no's this week when I was counting on some yeses from God. So I was having a really hard time with it and feeling really sorry for myself. And then I was going over the song and I was like, oh, I have to trust God. What a concept. So whatever you are believing in God for, or trusting in God for, or screaming at God in your solitude for, like, why haven't you made this happen yet? Why can I not still pay this bill? Why is this person I love still not healed? Why have I not gotten this new place yet? Why? I encourage you to really, like, cry out and surrender and trust when it's the hardest to do. So. Say yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody say yeah, yeah, yeah. One more time, say yeah, yeah. So many times in life before, I tried and tried to do things my way. I thought that I was smart enough. I thought I knew enough to handle myself. I didn't realize the problem was, the struggle was between my will and yours. trust you. I know you will come through like you always do, 'cause you never change. Say I have no other choice but to lean on you. Where else can I go? I have no other choice but to open my hands, 'cause closed hands can't receive. Say I have no other choice but to let go, 'cause my life's in your hands. I have no other choice but to believe. You have my bag, he has your bag. I have no other choice but to trust you. That's all I can do. Jesus, I have no other choice but to believe. I have no other choice but to trust you. That's all I can do. I have no other choice but to believe. One more time, just the voices. Sing, I have no other choice but to trust you. That's all I can do. I have no other choice but to believe. One more time from your heart. Sing, I have no other choice but to trust you. That's all I can do. I have no other choice but to believe. When your way's not working, when your way's not working, when you try to fix it and it gets worse than before, when you try to manage, take it all upon you, all upon your shoulders. Let it fall to the ground. I have no other choice but to trust you. What else can I do, Lord? I have no other choice but to believe. One more time. I have no other choice but to trust you. It's all I can do. Do what you say, Lord. I have no other choice but to believe. All right. So I want to share something with y'all. There's things to share. So it's Black History Month, as you know. And I have an excerpt from the third video of the 4, and it's called How Can Congregations Partner with Law Officials in the Community? So there's a panel in this video just like the last one, and they do a really good job of explaining when they go back and forth between people. So I gleaned a small portion, and if you want it to be expounded upon, feel free, go click on the video, check it out, let it wash over you. But it's based off of this scripture in Jeremiah 29:7, ESV. But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf. For in its welfare, you will find your welfare. There's no major change that has happened in this community without the faith community. In order for the criminal justice system to work, everyone in the community makes up our jury and grand jury pools, as well as being the witnesses to cases of injustice. And I have a poem by Langston Hughes. It's called Harlem. I actually wrote a song on one of my albums based off of this. But this is what it's about. He wrote it in 1951 as part of a book-length sequence called Montage of a Dream Deferred. Inspired by blues and jazz music, Montage, which Hughes intended to be read as a single long poem, explores the lives and consciousness of the Black community in Harlem and the continuous experience of racial injustice within this community. Harlem considers the harm that is caused when the dream of racial equality is continuously delayed. Ultimately, the poem suggests society will have to reckon with this dream as the dreamers claim what is rightfully their own. Here's the poem. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Does it fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? So, feel free to gather, congregate, after. Have a good week. Love on yourself, love on someone else, and